you know, as long as it wasn't coming out of my mouth, like, it was cool for everybody to know, like, what I had done at home, or, like, you know, who pissed off who and stuff. And, like, it was like, I definitely was not supposed to say I was getting whoopings or being grounded and stuff at school, because then it'd be like, oh, they definitely gonna call CPS. Da, 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 da. Don't say nothing, like, you know, because it could easily just be triggered just like that, you know, depending on who you talk to, especially talking to your teacher, or like you tell your friend tell your teacher or whatever, you know, just because based on people's perceptions of what goes on in Black households.
Right, yeah. And Lexi actually made a great comment about that, Johnny, like going right to your point that like they're so quick to call like child services and stuff like that on Black families because they have this weird perception about how Black families operate. And they sort of like put a negative viewpoint on it. Like, oh, they must be buying the house. You hit your kids, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
And it's like some folks are, right? And that's across all races, but like that's not the normal case. Like whoopings are an actual thing, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And there's a balance that a lot of Black parents realize and actualize, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that like what stays in the house, like I don't know, it makes a lot of sense along with what y'all saying, right? It's like Black people aren't allowed to really mess up outside. So it's like if you tell people, then it's like you're making yourself very vulnerable to like all of these social services, all of like the government, like you can be taken away. And I think that like it's so much pressure, but then it leads to a lot of toxicity. I think of like that Boondocks episode. I think it's when it's like who is it? Is Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown on there? And they was like, Granddad was like, "Them niggas is crazy," and it's like you don't want Black people to look crazy on TV because it's like it's just, people gonna take that as a misrepresentation. I think that's the same thing as like at a micro level, like in the home. It's like if other people hear this, even if it's family, even if it's like people at school, like then like there's such a negative stereotype that you have to carry around everywhere.
Yeah. I think like for me growing up, that wasn't a thing. Like I don't remember ever like being explicitly told or made to feel like I shouldn't say anything about something, you know, which is like interesting. But I do know that like I know that was something for like my friends growing up. Like I'm not supposed to tell you this, or like, you know, like things like that. But and I think like what you were saying, it can be pretty toxic because like yes, like Black people are vulnerable like in the world, like socially and politically, but like children, like Black children are still children who are like vulnerable in a relation. Like there's a big power dynamic between like parents and children, or even like any relationship in the home. Like those are really intimate relationships, and Black people got a lot of trauma that we dealing with, specifically people of color, like how our trauma goes into our parenting, or like our intimate relationships, our family relationships, like that. There should be a better space for people to talk about that outside the house, because I shouldn't feel like if I'm a kid, if I bring this up to somebody, like, you know, like school psychologists who are more culturally adept to like, you know, like there needs to be a way for children from a young age to talk about like the emotional effects of their relationships. And I think like that is like that's part of why it's like don't say nothing outside, because there's no space for us to like unpack that safely.
And kids know the way they feel and like what makes them feel good and what doesn't. Like I think that's a good point to say. Like a lot of the times like it's assumed that children don't know what's going on, or like have no perception of what's going on in adult life, or anything's wrong, or like if their feelings are right. But at the end of the day, they do. And like with that, like they should have the ability to speak about like what's going on at home, regardless of the fact.